All right, here we go. We are speaking with Derek Day and, of course, the one and only Vernon Reid. Bonjour, gentlemen. Welcome to Montreal, actually. I'm in Canada.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.
And, Derek, I got to say, I got the email that says, do you want to talk to Derek? And I went, okay, I don't really know who he is, but yeah, I'd love to. Because I checked out your video, Click on Me. And that thing is just phenomenal. It's a great song. So let me just start with that and putting out a single. Is it part of a larger album, or are you just sort of working, focusing on singles for now?
At the moment, just singles, just because, well, we have some songs in the tank. Actually, me and Vernon went into the studio last year, actually maybe 2 years ago now, and
Right.
Recorded a bunch of tunes, and there is a potential for an EP, but really, at this moment, we're just kind of feeling it out with singles.
Mm-hmm.
And talk to me about that quick, Vernon. In terms of a game plan for I'm going to call you a young kid because I'm
Thank you.
because I'm over 50.
Hey.
No, but is that sort of the game plan these days? Because when Cult of Personality and when Living Color came out, you had to have an album, you had to have the MTV thing, you had to have the radio edit. It was a whole ball of wax. Now, can you sort of just do one song at a time and just stay in the fans' ears like once every 2 months, once every 3 months?
I think so. I think the strategies now. The strategies are all over the map. You can say somebody could do something on Instagram and become a sensation, or it could happen via YouTube. Radio still is a factor, and so the thing about Click on Me is that it's a song actually about the internet. It's about this thing that we're all negotiating. And because of the pandemic, we're forced to spend even more time. So when we wrote it, obviously the internet and the web had taken up a lot of our time and space, but now it's even more so. So, we have the videos out and people are discovering the song and people are connecting to it. And that's, since it's not so much tied to an album release thing, it's almost like thinking about that long tail that people are always talking about.
Yeah.
Is that, I think this single could have a long life, even as we're releasing, as Derek is releasing other songs, songs that he's worked on and the songs that I've also produced. And I have such a strong feeling for Derek and his ability to connect and his ability to really transmit his boundless enthusiasm for rock and roll and for life. That's the thing. Aside from him being a very impressive guitarist and being a very impressive vocalist, the thing about it is for me about Derek Day is the spirit that's animating what he does. He is one of the most positive and genuine people artists I've met in a long time. And I would say that whether he was on the line or not. I connect to him because his feeling for what music is so, it's kind of like, of course he's ambitious, of course he wants to make it and all that, but his feeling for music that's not what's making that happen with him. So I really firmly believe that who he is, along with his skill set, is going to be what's going to, have a lot of people be attracted to him and connect to him.
Yeah, listen, I'll be frank. I was so I'm not going to say attracted to him, but I was so enthralled by that song.
Well, not
I
that
actually
way.
not that way,
Well, not
but
that way, bro.
but I actually
Hey,
subscribe to his channel. I subscribe to his channel because I want more stuff.
Look here. Hey.
I know, not that way. No, but I like the song so much. I subscribe to the channel. I figured I want to see what else is coming up. But Derek, let me ask you about that because, as a youngster trying to make it into the music business, you look at what, The Weeknd is doing or what Post Malone is doing or what Drake is doing, and it's very, very different than the rock and roll of 1980. It's not Poison, it's not Rat, it's not... Why do you want to go down the road of rock and roll guitar, and what excites you about the instrument instead of trying to do the whole loops and the things and the... Why the guitar? Why a rock and roll guitarist?
Well, those artists you brought up are actually kind of leaning toward rock and roll a little bit. Like Post is kind of doing.
Well, he
doing
does those
stuff
heavy
with-
metal shows every so often. He's the greatest, by the way.
Oh yeah, he's a badass, and like you would bump into him at the Rainbow Bar and Grill when it was open, and and like it's just weird. It's like and yeah, like the Weeknd's kind of doing this MJ thing, and like everyone's kind of throwing it back right now, musically, of course. But man, like the rock. I mean, I don't really think about it as a strategy or a move or anything, but I do think it's something that like I'm longing to hear. Like Paul Stanley said about Kiss, he was like, we wanted to be a band that we wanted to see. I just want to see this. I felt like I was getting gypped every time I bought a ticket. I saw these dudes like performing rock and roll shows that weren't really sick. And like that's why we created Kiss. We went above and beyond. Not that I'm saying I'm doing that. I'm just saying like I really want to hear this right now. I really want to. So that's my instinct. I just want to like go ahead and like plug into a big old amp and and then maybe add some like tiny synthesizers or whatever. But it's just kind of I don't know. It's just a feeling, I think a lot of people are kind of hungry for it. As you can see, like all those dudes, like you mentioned, kind of going back to drums, real drums and real guitars and real keyboards.
What a concept, right? It's not out of a box anymore. Vernon,
Yeah.
Vernon, talk to me about wanting to work with a young artist, because you're at this stage in your career where you could just go play the 15 greatest hits every night. You can show up at an Aerosmith show and do a guest spot. I mean, what excites you about going back and getting a young kid and hearing how he plays and just saying, yeah, okay, I can work with this?
The thing for me is with seeing young artists coming up, I want to see if people are connecting to what it is about music. The thing for me, music so animated me in my life, even before I was a musician. It really meant there's so many emotions. There's so many different feelings. It's so powerful. And I'm talking about, pop music, rock and roll music, soul music, blues music, jazz music. There's something so ineffable. If I occasionally use big words, but there's something so ineffable.
I know them.
About what that is. And what I'm constantly looking for with artists and really whoever they are, wherever they come from, whatever packaging they have, I'm looking for that unspeakable thing, that thing that's like, this person is doing the thing that they would be doing in their bedroom anyway. They're doing this thing that nobody understands it, but they have to do it. They're doing that thing that makes me go, damn, I wish I thought of that. Or they're doing that thing like, man, this is like a tune I've always heard, right? Like the first time I heard Blowing in the Wind as a child, I didn't have the idea. I thought it was a song that always existed. The idea that a person actually wrote that song, that a Bob Dylan wrote that song, I was like, wow. I thought it was like a song like, House of the Rising Sun, which is a traditional tune, or a song like Trouble in Mind. Nobody knows who first came up with Trouble in Mind.
Or Whiskey in a Jar, or
Whiskey in a Jar, or all these things, or Shenandoah.
Mm-hmm.
Like the songs that are, or Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud, like songs that just connect to something deep. And artists that, whether they're instrumental artists or whether they're vocalists or a combination, that connect to that thing. And whether they're doing it, they do it over and over again, like a Stevie Wonder, or whether they do it one time, like a Timmy Thomas, there's still something that makes it happen. Like the first time I heard Black Dog, I jumped out of my skin. The first time I heard Are You Experienced, I jumped out of my skin. The first time I heard Hot Pants, I jumped out of my skin. And so it's kind of like all the different musics are one music in my mind. And what I'm thinking about when I hear people, do they connect to that source that all music comes from? And Derek is a person that connects, in my opinion, is a person that connects to where all music comes from. And that's what I look like for in terms of working with artists and the idea of producing. One of the things for me is is I really understand the dilemma, because I've been on all sides of it. I've been on the up and coming. I've been on the, oh shit, we got to do our next record. I've been on is this going to be a single? I've been on the various, I just want to do something different. I've been on various sides of the artistic dilemma. Like, how do I bring something into the world and at the same time get out of the way of what I'm bringing into the world? I think the producer's role is, it's kind of like, not to mansplain or, but it's almost like midwifery. It's like helping something be born, but getting out of the way and helping the artist get out of the way, because the song or the songs have a life of their own.
That's very interesting. I'm going to take you up on that for a second, because you look at some of the producers that I grew up on, Mutt Lange, Bob Ezrin, etc. They really control the process. I mean, I've always said that Kiss and Alice Cooper didn't make Kiss and Alice Cooper records. They made Bob Ezrin solo records, but they were playing on it, And Mutt Lange is just very meticulous, as we know. Mm-hmm. How do you see the whole producer role? Because you sort of said right there, you got to step back and let it happen, but do you want to be in control? Do you want to say this is how it's going to go and impose your vision? Or what is the role of a producer?
It's a philosophical question. It's really, it's actually about, it is actually, interestingly enough, it's the idea that if I control all parts of this and analyze all parts of it, that I will, in the end, produce the commercial result that is required. This is also analogous to movies. I think the philosophy of a Brian Eno is very different than the philosophy of a Mutt Lange. Right. I think that I think there's a certain amount of the happy accident. Well, you could sweat over a snare drum sound, and you could bring in 1,000 snares, and at the end of the day, the audience hears a snare drum, and maybe the first snare drum you put up is the same as the 1,000th snare drum, but for your process, you need to go through all of that and torture the drummer, right?
Well, it's
I mean, and really, it's kind of like, do you believe in a monotheistic God who's controlling everything, or do you believe that everything is this thing we call life? Is it a happening that nobody's ever going to have the answer? They're not going to have they didn't have the answer 1,000 years ago, and trust me, whatever technology they have, and that includes downloading your consciousness into a synthesized body, they're not going to have the answer 1,000 years from now. To be or not to be is a hell of a question, because to be or not to be was a question asked centuries ago, and we haven't come up with the answer for it yet. So some people wanted to say, that's how they do it. They do it, and all the markings on the piece of paper, and everyone has to do what they do, and they have to produce the music that way, and that's valid. Or they just hum a tune and suddenly it catches fire. They hum a simple tune like a "Don't Worry, Be Happy," and it sets the world on fire. So both things are valid. It's who you are. I'm not a Gary Katz or a Mutt Lange. I mean, I like the idea of being aware and being open and being with an artist. Half your work, like the Svengali thing, like I'm going to take Fabian and make Fabian a thing. Well, Fabian is like a game show answer, right? Like Fabian is not Buddy Holly, right? How do you get the Buddy Holliness out into the world? How do you get that thing into the world such that people experience Buddy Holly the way you experience Buddy Holly? I want people to experience Derek Day the way I experienced Derek Day. Now, Derek is a terrific vocalist and a terrific guitarist, and he could be micromanaged to death. He could be, and he might get a result at the end because he's really good. But that's not my interest. My interest is in the raw awesomeness of what Derek Day is. So, am I wrong for that?
Nope.
A Mutt Lange could say, you know what, we're going to go and we're going to grind it out, and we're going to get all the snare drums, we're going to bring in all the amps, and we're going to do all of that. And Derek is talented, so it's going to be dope. But that's not what interests me at all. And many different, let a thousand schools of thought contend, to quote Mao, if I will, if I may be so bold.
Yes,
You know what I
listen,
mean?
I'm of the school of thought that I like the first Black Sabbath record. It took them whatever 9 hours or 9 days in and out, off we go, and here we are 50 years later, and we still love it. That's I like that.
Yeah, well, what's so funny about that is that Black Sabbath record. The records are, what's incredible? How much louder records are. Holy shit!
Yeah.
Like that Black Sabbath record, you have to go and turn up your stereo. Now, it's well mixed, so it sounds great loud, but it's not brick walled at all, right? So now we've been in the loudness arms race.
Well, that's the new way of making records. Crank everything.
What's interesting to me is, and I don't even want to name names of bands, but there's a lot of bands, for me, that's using Pro Tools the same way. It's loud, it's clean. The vocalists.
There's no dynamics, though. There's no dynamics.
The vocalists have this kind of wheedling. I call it a wheedling, almost whining emotionalism. That, it's kind of like I'm pissed off and I'm also a victim. That's what I hear. Right?
You're right.
And what I'm really not hearing is a Chris Cornell. I'm not hearing honest, I'm not hearing a Lane Staley. I'm not hearing a Corey Glover. I'm biased because I'm in a band with him.
The dude's amazing. Corey's amazing.
I'm not hearing an Angelo Moore. I'm not hearing an HR. I'm hearing, like, the industry has standards, and I hear bands who are really talented. They are exceptional musicians, and they're all adhering to almost a single standard. Right?
Well, there's a singular vision for a lot of the music, and listen, I'm not hearing my Robin Zanders anymore, the man of 1,000 voices. Derek, let me ask you this real quick. What do you look for in a producer like Vernon? Like, what do you want to take away from working with him and knowing him and meeting him? Do you just want to sort of live off of his experience? Do you want to, what does he bring to your game?
Well, god damn, Vernon just blew my mind just now.
I know.
Sorry, but
I know.
As you can see, there's boundless, endless knowledge from Vernon. And so, for me, it's I totally agree with, man, hold on, I just gotta catch my breath real quick because you're talking about existence. But anyway, I just want to say, when we were working together, I tried my best to be present and just to be there with Vernon and be with him, because it's that's the most you can do.
But do you want a producer to hold your hand through the process, or do you want to have that give and take and say, whoa, I'm the artist, this is my vision, let's capture my, what do you want when you're working with Vernon or a producer?
I definitely want Vernon or a producer, but mainly Vernon, to have the I guess I could say the hands on the wheel. I trust him to take me there, because he's right. I get so in my own head. I get so in my own world. I focus on these little things that aren't really what it's about. There's that. I remember in the studio, there was when we were doing vocals for Click on Me, he was like, all right, do that again. But it's we're trying to find more of an emotion rather than the tone at some points, certain points, we're trying to catch that vibe. And I don't think about that.
But a song has to connect with you on an emotional level. And that means, Happy Birthday makes you feel happy, and a sad song. You have to capture that. That to me is the essence of it. No,
absolutely. Yeah, of course. Exactly. So it's I'm here coming in, I'm just, I don't know, man. I just love everything Vernon did, because it's just it really was just all about, it was pretty easy, I think, when we were recording it. It was pretty fluid. I think we're kind of when you're on the same page with your producer, I have no disagreements the whole time. And I was actually kind of damn, this is easier than I thought it was. So it's just I feel it's finding the right producers is a key thing. Finding the right friend and like, kindred spirit. I feel like we're just kind of like, boom, we want this. Boom. And when you're on the same page, you hit it right on the bullseye,
Yeah.
baby.
Oh, yeah. And that click on me is great. Let me ask you this, Vernon. In terms of creativity, there must be a difference, I'm assuming, between creating a song, playing a song, and getting on stage. And I'm just going to keep saying Cult of Personality because I love that song Beyond Death. To producing somebody and having their... Is it the same sort of creative energy that you get? Does it excite you as much? Are they the same thing and you're just an artist and you create differently, or are they two different beasts, and do you prefer one over the other?
Well, I learned so much about producing with spending my time with Ed Stasium in the studio for Vivid, and really with him and Paul Hamingson, and the way, because Ed Stasium was also a master engineer, and the way he interacted with Paul, the way, he was able to take ideas I had and translate them technically. And it was just very, the way he would get excited about a take, or the way I was there for the vocal sessions, and how he would have Corey do a vocal again and again. It was like, and in the end, he would get the precise take. So there is a certain amount of being focused, but you don't want to worry it to death. And a lot of people do, and they get there's an art to punching in every word and making it sound like it's one continuous thing. But the old school thing was they didn't even have tracks. You had to get the performance. You had to get the performance. And one of the things for Click on Me, like one of my favorite moments in the song Click on Me is when Derek goes, "I want to go viral." And the reason that is that if you listen to I want to go viral, he almost sounds like a spoiled troll.
Yeah.
He sounds like a spoiled kid who's never been denied anything. And my thought was, I want him to evoke this kind of disembodied, hungry desire. There's this hungry desire to be this ineffable, this thing that no one can control. And he's so deliberate on that line. I listen to it, I'm always waiting for this one particular moment, because he, to me, in that moment, embodies part of the function and dysfunction. So like part of what it is finding that moment. Like when Corey goes, "Look in my eyes, what do you see?" That first line is crucial. That's the invitation. That line is about so much.
Absolutely.
And one of the things about that process was, and it wasn't a whole lot it takes to get it, but Ed was very focused on getting each line to work. And that line it's like a long time ago in a galaxy far away. There's a thing that brings you into the story of the song, and that's the thing. And for me, Derek, so I mean, there's so much about how he's emotional as a singer, and then he just is also a kick-ass guitar player. So it's weird. Because I've always compared him a bit to the late great Tommy Bolin, who played with the James Gang.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? I was trying to figure out who Derek looked like, and I was thinking, does he look like Nuno Bettencourt? But he does sort of look like Tommy Bolin, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's like, dude, this guy who's the rhyme? So and he's one of my hero guitar players from back in the day. And at the same time, vocally, I go, dude, he's like, there's a bit of the Jeff Buckley thing, and it was scary to me, right? So part of the joy of working with Derek is that he, just by being himself, he's like two of my favorite people, but he's himself. So it's
perfect.
It's kind of a wild thing. So it feels like, like there's the mentoring thing of just saying, hey man, giving a certain amount of quote unquote advice, but there's also like a feeling of kind of awe and being honored to work. You know what I mean? Like it's a mutual.
Yeah,
It's a,
of course. You can learn
it's
from Derek just as much as he can learn from you. Absolutely.
it's really very mutual. So
I want to ask you
you
this because we were talking about the whole recording process, and Alan Niven, who used to manage Guns N' Roses, co-hosts all these episodes with me generally, and he always says that you have to the perfection is in the imperfection, and even if it's not it's not perfectly whatever, if you've captured that emotion and you've captured that, you keep it. Is that something that you agree with, that if the snare drum's not perfect or the vocal is just a little bit harsh, but it captures something, it captures a spirit, do you keep that? Is there a perfection in the imperfection?
Yeah, absolutely, but you have to be completely intentional. That's the thing.
Oh,
You-
that. Sorry, Vernon. I was
Go ahead.
literally just thinking that that exact thing. Like, your producing style is so intentional, like in an indescribable way. Because I was thinking of the previous question you asked me. I was like, damn it, how to answer that? But like, I want you
jump
to
in
say this, please.
anytime.
But man, like, it just feels so intentional without any of all the minutia kind of like constant digging. But there's this like inner intention, like no, or yes, that's it. Like when you got it, boom, kind of thing. But anyway, no, Vernon, continue, please.
Yeah, and so like working with Thomas Johansson, was our engineer.
Right.
He was fantastic to work with, because he also was very creative in suggestions and whatnot, but he didn't make it about him. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing about the producer engineer. If you're working with an engineer, like you want someone who's technically on the case, but also is creative, who can solve problems, who can solve issues without a whole lot of rigmarole. Because the rigmarole is, well, you bring in things about other things, or you bring in other emotions about other things. And Thomas was very present, and it was a joy to work with him, and it made working with Derek and the band really easy. And part of the thing is also kind of encouraging, like man, we're here, this is great, these tunes are great. Like if you go in when you're not really so sure about the tunes and you're hoping to make it happen in the studio, see, there's a lot of work that has to happen before you're actually making the thing. And in some cases, people use the studio as a writing tool because they're too distracted in their everyday life, so they want to go in. That puts a lot of pressure on the studio environment. That's why the studio environment can become deeply dysfunctional, because a lot of the other work hasn't happened. Now, if you're with people a band, if you will, and they at least either their dysfunctions work together or they're functional, you can risk it. But seriously, I prefer like certain decisions to have been made beforehand, even if the tunes are like, well, we're not so sure about the chord, whatever. But the vibe of it, the groove of it, it needs to be in a place where if you decide to take a left turn, the tune can handle it. If you decide to speed up the tempo or slow down the tempo or change the key, the tune itself can bear the stress of changes. Like one of the things about Cult of Personality, like when we played it in CBGBs, we used to use the bridge as like almost an intro before we got to the riff. And one of the things that Ed said was, you know what, man, we're gonna do the sample and go straight to the riff. Like we're not doing the, you know what I mean, the bridge chords as an intro. It was kind of like almost like a yes thing. We're not doing that. We're gonna go right to the meat of it. And at first I hemmed and hawed, and I was like, okay, let's do it. And it was exactly the thing that needed to happen. But the tune itself was able to withstand those kind of changes. And that's the thing about when we went into work, we had already did that. His band was tight. It was just about making the tunes come to life. And it was it was a process, but it was a joyful process.
Hey, listen,
Yeah.
a good song is a good song, and I'll tell you this, as somebody who reports and I hear a lot of new bands and a lot of new stuff. There's just when you hear somebody who's got it, you just know it. And Derek, you've got it. When you see, and I'm going back to the '80s, but when you saw Madonna the first time, you just went, yeah, she's different. And when you saw Lady Gaga the first time, you go, yep, she's different. And I'm getting that sense from you because, again, I clicked on the video. I didn't know what to expect. And I was mesmerized. And I went, yeah, that kid's got it. And I see a long, prosperous career for you. I really do. It's one of these intangibles, and Vernon, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You've seen a bunch of people at bars and a bunch of people, and every so often you look at some guy and you go, "Yep, that's the one."
So I was an MD for a show in a tribute to Chuck Berry.
Yes, which he played at.
We were at Lincoln Center in the park for Lincoln Center, and there were a lot of high points, and Derek's tune was Nadine, and the crowd, this New York crowd, they don't know anything about Derek Day, and I said, when the interview said, this is a young man you're going to be hearing a lot from, and Derek came on, and he tore the place up. He was so in the rock and roll vernacular. He was so, and I'm playing and I'm watching the crowd, and I see the crowd being convinced. I see the crowd going, you know what I mean? By the time he goes, Nadine, is that you? They're ready to say yes. And that's what it is.
And Derek, listen, when you've been around long enough, you can spot the real ones, and you're the real one. I mean, that's what I'm gonna say. I could go on for another whatever, but we've already reached half an hour. So why don't we do a second one when the next video comes out? Because I'm gonna back this horse. I'm backing this horse. I like it.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much. And we will be happy to come on because this is a story. This is an unfolding story. Believe that.
Yeah, and go ahead.
I just want to say I'm so humbled to just be here and talking to you guys. I have a lot of I'm grateful to even just be experiencing this right now with you guys. And so the fact that we're just talking music and hanging out, like we're friends, Mitch.
Yeah.
We're friends.
Yeah. Well, this is the way it should be. This is the way it should be. This is what rock and roll was back in the day, and then it got so corporate and so. But this is this is the spirit.
Really, it is, and especially like I don't even want to get into contemporary news items, but there's so much. We're living with so many shadowy, dark scenarios now, and to work with someone who really, and we all have our shadows, but to work with someone who so is life positive and is so filled with love for complete strangers, I gotta tell you, it's the way this dude is one of the people that's going, and I ain't gonna gas his head up because I don't want him to change a thing, but this guy is one of the people that's gonna save this idiom, save rock and roll from itself. Believe me when I say it.
Yeah, and it's nice to have a refreshing shot in the arm. Honestly, listen, every summer we can go out, we can see the Def Leppard tour, and we can see the Motley Crue tour, and we can see the Metallica tour. But I'm looking forward to the Derek Day tour, just because it needs a refresh. Not that I don't love those other bands, I do, but he needs a refresh. And I need to see Living Color again. It's been God.
Yeah.
I don't even remember the last time you came to Montreal.
I know. Soon and very soon, man. Once we get this scenario, I mean, honestly, I'm thinking that things are going to be different on the other side, but we, as a species, we need to connect, and we need these ritual spaces where we connect, and maybe we'll have to figure that out, but we actually do need it, and I believe it's all going to come back. However different it is, it's coming back.
But and I'm going to leave you on this, but through every major event, whether it was the Spanish flu or World War II or Vietnam, what comes out after is always innovation and new hope and a moving forward. And this sucks right now, but I think in 2, 3, 4 years, we're going to see all kinds of new technologies. These Skypes are going to be a lot better. The live streams are going to be better. There's going to be new medicine. There's going to be new this, new... we have to be patient, but
yeah,
the other side...
This is also opportunity. I mean, actually, here's the other weird thing about this. As terrible as this is, strangely enough, the level of opportunity for new technologies is off the charts.
Innovation.
The level of opportunity in the middle of all what this is redonkulous. And the people that step up, you know what I mean? And the people that step up with boldness are going to win.
I fully agree. And on that, as we say in Montreal, merci, monsieur. Thank you very much, Derek. Click on Me, folks, is on YouTube right now. Vernon, your stuff has just, it was a game changer back in the day because it broke that mold and it was fantastic. Merci. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Mitch.
Absolutely.
Great talking.
You too. Let me just stop.